Okay, well, thank you, Trisha, for that introduction. Like she said, Miguel. So we're gonna start talking a little bit about the Australopithecus anamensis, and I'm gonna try to follow the same format that Dr. Kramer has had for the other fossils so far. So let's just get started here. So first, with the Australopithecus anamensis, we have the Australopith being the grade. So do you guys know that? Tell me what the grade actually means or represents. No. So the grade would be like the set of behaviors that links all these groups together, right? So a set of characteristics that will link them all. So that we'll have Australopithecus anamensis, we'll have Australopithecus afarensis. So all of them have some sort of characteristic that will link them all together. So these are relatively small bipeds. They have small chimp-like brains still. And one cool thing is the anamensis is actually anagenesis to afarensis. So what does that mean, anagenesis? So an anagenesis is like a gradual evolution of a species, right? So I know you guys haven't talked about afarensis yet, but you will get to that soon. And so this one is what we would be calling more like a direct descendant. So like in an evolving lineage, the one that comes first, and then as we go on to afarensis, so anamensis would be actively evolving to reach an afarensis. So we will start with the genus, which is the Australopithecus, and the species name, anamensis. So following the conventional naming, means southern from anam, so anamensis. And this is attributed to a very wide range of species that we have from Ethiopia to South Africa. The distribution that we have here, though, is Cubifora in Kenya. We have in Lake Turkana, in East Turkana. I think you guys, those are lyrics, I think you guys have to write these ones down. So the environment, when we're talking about the environment of how these creatures evolve, the environment always plays a part in our evolution, right? So the environment found for the anamensis, we found it to be open woodland, which is around a body of water, with the woodland probably being reasonably dense when we're closer to the, right next to the water, right? But as we move away from the water, we're going to have a drier and drier environment. So they probably had access to the open environment as well as the woodland. So they most likely utilized both the environments in their daily subsistence. We have that with faunal fossils that can corroborate that as well. So in Ethiopia, though, we don't have much information on the environment, but we know there was a water source there too, in the Awash River. The reason I mentioned Ethiopia specifically, I don't think I said it in the last slide, there is one element, the cranium, that is associated from Ethiopia. So. Have that. The time frame for the fossil specimens are from 4.1 to 3.8 million years ago. We have that dating through argon dating, so they're pretty good dates on this. These fossils were known since the mid-90s, but as time progresses, more and more information has been coming out on anamensis. So the type specimen, or the holotype that we have for this is this mandible. KNM-KP-29281. So it is, we have a cast right here. This is an adult mandible. It has all the teeth. It lacks the rami, though, the portions of the mandible that go up to articulate with the maxilla. So it lacks that. We have, besides this fossil, this was just the holotype that I was showing, but we have other fossils associated with it. We have the mandible, we have the maxilla, we have distal and proximal tibia, we have humerus, radius, and we have the cranium that was found in Ethiopia, as mentioned earlier. So back to the mandible. So we have the dental.
Sorry, can we go back?
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
And I also have the castor of the maxilla and the tibia and the distal tibia and proximal tibia. And I think in the other box we have the radius as well.
And where were the type specimen, where was it found?
The type specimen was found in Kudufar.
In where?
In Kudufar, Kenya.
Kenya. Okay.
So the mandible, let's describe the mandible. So we have the dental arcade, U-shaped. So you have a better view on the PowerPoint. But we have a U-shaped dental arcade. The molar enamel is thick. There is no diastema. So that indicates that if the canines protruded, they were very, very mildly protruding. We also don't see evidence of a canine mechanism. And we also see that the third molar is worn on here. So third molar is their wisdom teeth, the marker of adult physiological status. So it means that they were fully adult, and because it's worn, it means they were fully adult for a while. For comparison, the third molar or M3 or wisdom teeth in humans usually appears around age 18. So doesn't mean that they were at the same age group. Okay, and I have a maxilla here as well. So the teeth are also pretty worn, also adult, indicated by the wear of the teeth in the enamel. This KNM-KP29283. I'm being to really know that, but I just want to emphasize that just because the numbers are very similar to it doesn't mean that this is an associated one. This is not the matching set, as far as we know, matching set to the mandible. So yeah, the enamel is still same thing, thick, teeth are worn, and 3 is present on as well. We can move down to the lower limb. Sorry, I'm just more partial to lower limb too. So we have the proximal and the distal tibial fragments here. So, okay, the tibial shaft is vertically aligned. Let me put this one down. Right, with the tibial plateau being at a 90 degree, right, to the tibial shaft. So we have a very T shape here. See that? So why is that important? What does this imply? Maybe take a guess what it implies before I continue? You guys can talk amongst yourself for a couple seconds and we'll see. Be on the table. Wait, you guys want to say what you guys were discussing or anything?
Yeah, we were saying it could be an indication of a carrying mold.
Right.
Outswat.
Yeah. Did everybody hear that? Could be an indication of carrying angle. Okay, so it's implying that it's orienting the femur right in the vertical way, and we'll get to that angle. So, which is a bipedal way of carrying it in a vertical way, right? So it also shows that the condyles are equal or close equal in size. Why would that be something that is important? Well, it helps for the better distribution of the forces as you're walking, right? Such like bipeds. So we are seeing implications just by having the proximal tibia that these critters were probably bipedal, just from the observance. So this leads us to a bicondylar angle. So what is it? What is a bicondylar angle? So anybody?
Was that the angle? I keep thinking about this when you're talking about the tibia, but that's the angle of the femur that goes in to help center your weight.
Right.
Going on to it.
Right, so even though this is the tibia, and we talk about the bicondylar angle on the femur, because we don't have the femur associated with this, but we can see the implications of it based on the proximal tibia, right? So just refresher, it's the angle between the shaft of the femur and the perpendicular line of the condyle. So basically like an upside down kind of situation that we're seeing. So it forms angle from the knee to the hip joint, and that brings the knees closer together on the body. And why would that be important to bring your knees closer together? Does somebody hands up?
It helps you with your balance, but also helps with the distribution of their weight.
Right, so by bringing in the knees closer together, we're gonna be able to distribute the forces better and have better balance when we're walking. So it's also a marker of bipedalism, but we leading on to this slide of why it's important, force distribution. As Janine mentioned, it brings the foot closer to the midline when the body center of gravity. So while we're walking, we would go through a single foot or stance when we're just balancing on one foot. So this helps us maintain our balance during bipedal locomotion. So for reference here, we have the bicondylar angle of modern humans, the Australopithecines, and chimps. So the image, I really like this image. This is from Purdue. Forgot the date, but it's Purdue and Trinko's. Yes. And this is giving us the just the difference in bicondylar angle, and with a chimp at sea, you see a more vertical oriented femur on that. So let's move on with this one. So this was supposed to pop out one at a time. But okay, the modern humans and Australopithecines, we keep our center of gravity in a column when we're walking. So having our knees closer together helps us maintain that when we're in single phase, right? Quadrupeds and like chimps don't have a walking phase where they are supported on a single leg. So having a straight femora will keep the legs directly underneath the hip joints and help them with their balance. So this leads us to ontogeny. You guys know what ontogeny is? Anybody can tell me? So ontogeny would be like that development, something that occurs during the development of an individual. So babies actually don't have a bicondylar angle. So the image on the side is a radiograph of an infant, and you see their femora being very straight. So baby bicondylar angles is 0 when they're born, and it actually does not start forming. Bicondylar angle doesn't start forming till around. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. No, that's not the word.
You sure? Okay. So the bicondylar angle is 0 when babies are born, and we don't start seeing a change in the angle to start appearing till around 2 years, and that continues to develop. You guys, anyone want to take a guess of why it starts developing around this time? Why they're born without one, and why we start seeing a change? Why don't you guys discuss a little bit, and then we can talk about that.
Oh, that's yeah. Yeah.
Coordination to like start walking effectively until they're as well. And that's probably like a more optimal explanation. Yours is more like an ultimate explanation.
All right. This table. Do you guys want to mention a little bit of what you guys were talking about?
So we were talking about like how babies don't really, they're not born bipedal, right?
Mm-hmm.
They first have like a quadrupedal form of locomotion. And then do you want to talk about your idea for like why?
Well, I was saying that it's not angled out to help them exit the birth canal a little bit easier since
Okay.
that is so narrow. So
Okay. Who else wants to have other ideas?
Could it be that since like the babies are not, they're like getting nurtured, they're getting carried and stuff, they're not wasting energy kind of developing that until they actually need to start walking bipedally?
Okay, so we have energy conservation, and we have being able to be fit through the birth canal. Anybody else want to bring up their ideas?
We said that like the it would probably only actually develop once you're up walking around under the force of gravity, but when you're like floating in utero, you wouldn't really have that force acting on you. It would be like postural stuff going on.
Okay, so yeah, so around 2 years of age is when we start seeing babies start to walk in a different way, right? They're not crawling anymore, they're starting to take their steps, trying to walk around everywhere. So you're getting more forces that are being applied on that. I remember when we were talking about the proximal portion of this was helping with force distribution, right? So as the babies are walking around, gravity is acting upon them. We're also experiencing ground reaction forces going up. We're getting different forces coming in. So it needs to be, the forces need to be distributed in a way that's not going to be dangerous, right? So, we start seeing that the children start reaching low adult values of bicondylar angle by 5 years of age. So by that time, these kids have been walking around for at least 3 years, like primarily as their form of locomotion. So the forces that are always being applied on that are helping develop. So the forces that are being applied, so it is now helping develop bone growth and bone formation on the femur, right? So as forces are being applied in a certain way, bone needs to react to that. So it's going to start laying down bone in that, and to be able to better distribute these forces. So as a result, we actually see that the medial side of the distal portion of the femur starts growing faster. More bone is being laid to that, and gives us this starting the bicondylar angle. So that's how the bicondylar is developed into that. There's something interesting about this too, speaking about on the forces, is that when we see children that have been bedridden or for some reason aren't able to walk, we don't see a development of the bicondylar angle. So this further helps us see that forces play a big role, and not just gravitational forces, but like walking forces, and where the forces being applied on the femur help us develop this, right? So we're seeing this on anamensis coming in from when we started in the why did I just forget the name of it? The myosin gap. We come in from the myosin gap, but we go in as quadrupeds, and then we come out with chimps on one side and human lineage coming on the other, right? So we start seeing here on one of the furthest relatives, we start seeing these modifications to the bone implying habitual bipedalism, which is pretty cool that we can see that just from one piece of proximal tibia. I mean, I think it's pretty cool. So I really just wanted to talk more about the what bicondylar angle really means for bipedalism. So I think for the rest of the anamensis lecture, though, I'm going to have for that to Dr. Kramer to give you the upper limb stuff and the less cool stuff. Sorry. But does anybody have any questions on this so far, or any slides that I need to hit back? Yeah.
This is only slightly related.
Yeah.
How different do we know is the bicondylar angle and that and sort of knee joint on someone, for example, who's like bow-legged or someone who's knock-kneed,
Ooh.
relative to like Jim's?
Yeah, so that's a little harder, I think, to answer, because that comes from pathology. It's not like something that has been developed through forces being applied or through ontogeny or even through any of that. So I think that's gonna be something really hard to answer. That you would have to go more digging into the pathology itself and how that is being put. The knock knee, is that like that's Vegas when it's like too close together, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's think about that. So first, when we're talking about the knee being put in directly underneath you for force distribution and walking, right? You have a let me go back to this slide. Okay, we have the average bicondylar angle be between 8 and 11. Obviously, this varies from individual to individual, right? And it has human variation plays a big part in it. And some obviously have lower, some obviously have higher, without it being pathological. So, if you have a pathology such as having the knees being like being so close together, that's going to affect the way that all the forces are being distributed throughout. So it's going to be, it would have a lot more health implications to the locomotion than it would just be from just what we observe in just variation. Does that answer some?
Yeah,
A
I would
little-
imagine like if it's a pathology, it's just outside that normal range.
Yeah, it'll be outside that normal range, and it could be multiple reasons for that. Anybody else? Yeah.
So during the age of when they start getting out babies to they start doing more habitual walking, since they don't have that angle as much, how does that affect their walk? Like, do they walk very well, or does it?
So
does it not great?
So pretty sure the word toddling is for toddler is the way that they're walking. So they're not walking in the same way that we originally were walking, right? They need to distribute their forces in a different way to be able to maintain their giant heads as they're walking too. So they need to have a very different form of locomotion until they reach a certain age where their forces have helped them carry the angle. As we saw in, what was it? Here, by the age of 5, they already have reached the low adult angles, the bicondylar angle. So they're already walking in the, I guess we say they've already developed their, in how they're going to be walking. Yes? Yeah.
If a child was like bedridden and didn't develop the bicondylar angle, if they were ever able to start walking, would that develop over time? Or would it depend on like their age? Because I know like
I think it would depend a lot on their
Usually
age because even though bone is malleable, when babies are being having this starting walking, their bones are still heavily cartilage, so that help the chondrocytes help it develop in a specific way. I would have to look more into on that answer on late development that would be. So, if nobody has anything else, I'll stop right here and let Dr. Kramer continue the lecture. Thank you, everybody.
Sorry.